This is going to be a good podcast. I feel it.
I think so.
Yeah. Let's just do it. Here we go. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 3, right?
Yeah.
We did
3.
0. We got 1, 2, and now we're on number 3. And as of this podcast, we've launched episode 0, and that one, surprisingly, we already have how many views?
Views in the 50s, maybe 40s, 50s.
I think 45 for the YouTube, and then for listens, I think we're at 58. And I just want to share that we've got listeners all the way in Singapore, India, and the UK. So thank you all who are listening in from those countries. We are super excited to have you on this journey, and everyone else in the States, we're so glad as well to have you on board with us for this journey. So we're going to share some of our stats as we go along so that you can see how things progress, whether we're growing or whatever happens. We'd love to, share that information with you. So, Spencer, I thought today it would be fun to talk about this idea of overlap. There's a book by McCabe, Sean West, where he talks about, if you're not doing something that you're passionate about, like how to get to that point. So maybe you're in a day job and it's like soul sucking and you just feel like you're worn out every single day and like there's, not much that you can do afterwards, or like maybe you don't have enough time for your family. Maybe you're working weekends, holidays, and it just isn't great. So we're going to basically give information about how to like get out of that situation. Maybe what do you think would be some of the pain points of someone like looking for like an overlap kind of situation?
Yeah, I mean, just to preface, I haven't read this. Paul has, and it's a topic that is very interesting to me because, I kind of made the jump from working a full-time job to starting my own business. And I know for I was in a good position with my marriage, with my life. I didn't have kids yet. We were in an apartment. It was very easy for me to try this. Also, Maria had a job, so I could kind of lean on her income for a little bit. So it really depends on your situation, but I think for the majority of people, you're in a position where it's difficult to just say, I quit this job, let me go try something crazy. So this is a topic that's very near and dear to me, and I have some friends as well who are kind of in this position right now where they're leaning on their own income right now, and it's a job that's just wearing them out, and so they want to try something, but they're too tired to. So I think just going into pain points, I mean, definitely you're tired of doing maybe the job that you have, or maybe you went into a profession or you went to school for it, you thought it would be great, and now it's not. And so now you feel very stuck. You're requiring it's required of you to make this money to pay the bills and do these things. And so I think something I've seen in my friends and other people is when they get home from work, like the last thing they want to do is more work. They just want to sit and relax. And so they feel like they're in a rut. They feel like they're just stuck in this place. It could be a job that, is very toxic for them. Like they don't like the people there. Maybe they're not getting paid what they think they should be, but there's no room for growth. So, I see a point Justin had, or Paul had here, golden handcuffs. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes. I actually personally had golden handcuffs. I actually was doing basically what you said, where like I came out of school, I was doing work in the field that I had gone to school for. However, this job pretty much landed in my lap. And so I didn't really have much of a personal draw to it, I guess, as much as I would have liked to. It was great work. And honestly, it was a great working environment. Like the people that I worked with were great. My boss was fantastic. Like I had all these things, like the pay was pretty great for the field I was in. Sure. And then benefits were good. But like something deep inside, like one, it was challenging for our family because I had to work weekends, holidays, odd hours. Like I would be away like later in the evening. And then also like creatively, creatively. Basically, I just had like this feeling that like if I kept with this, like I would be burned out. And I got to that point where like creatively, like, you know, and it was in a field of music, which is like, you know, something I'm really passionate about. However, like by the end, I was just like burnt out. Like I didn't want to really do much with music. And so I did kind of like this book suggests, like an overlap to make a transition into a completely different career. So it is doable. I've done it and would highly recommend if you're in a situation like that, where you just feel burnt out, like you have, you know, you need like something different. And like you always had this passion that you've, you know, haven't just like made a decision for.
Sure.
Because like, you know, sometimes you have like external influences on your decisions. Like, I mean, it's just natural, like your parents, your upbringing, like your like teachers, you know, I definitely felt like I had those influences in my decisions. Not like it made me like make a terrible decision, but like I felt like I was sometimes letting that decision go to them instead of like making that myself.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of factors that you can't really control. So I think instead of just focusing on those and allowing those to consume your thinking, just kind of thinking of the factors that you can control. And I want to preface this before we kind of get into like, okay, that's great, but how do we get into this overlap idea and things? Something that someone said to me, I don't remember who it was, but they said, you know, if there's something you're super passionate about doing, I think one of the biggest things that a job can do is suck out your energy. And so, like I said, when you get home, you don't feel like doing something else. But I think in terms of just getting started, you will get energy from doing something you love, even if you're crazy tired when you get home. If you take, and maybe we're going to talk about this in a second, but just to kind of preface it and give some hope. When you sit down and you actually start working on something you enjoy, like the energy will come. So if that's like your biggest worry, that's something that someone told me and it's so true. And I mean, think about a time where like you didn't want to do something and you're like, man, I'd rather take a nap. But another time where you're maybe really tired, but you're going to a show or you're going to go hang out with friends, like the energy comes, you know? So anyway, just wanted to preface that a little bit, but yeah. So the medicine is what we've labeled this section is, you know, how can you go from, you know, instead of jumping from full-time job to something new, you know, how do we fix that? And I think the idea here from the book is this overlap idea. So, Paul, walk us through that, and then kind of we'll just jump into kind of like the how, because it's cool for us to tell you like it can be done. You just got to find the energy, go out there and do it. But then, you know, it's more helpful for us to say here are some steps that you can take to really help you do that. So,
right, and actually, Sean in his book talks about that there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. So he talks about like a buddy of his that decided, you know, to do the passion project and like just quit his job and just go full time into it. And he ended up getting burnt out by doing that. Because he wasn't ready. He didn't have the business side ready. Like there were just like all these things that he didn't think about. And if you just like, you know, cut the cord from your day job, all of a sudden you're relying on that. And if you don't have like a cushion, like a financial stability, you're going to be, you know, in a position of want and like need. So all of a sudden you're in this scarcity mindset, which he talks about. And that's a bad place to be. And like, you want to surround yourself with people that have like abundance mindset. And that is so important not to just like, I guess like, you know, make that transition without like really having a plan in mind. Cause you could end up worse off if you don't have like so what he did was like, basically he found that naturally he would do this one job. Like I think he started out with window washing. And, you know, he talks about how he's like on this super tall ladder and he's like, you know, this is not what I want to do like with my life kind of thing. And then he ended up like pivoting into, I think it was like computer work, like, and it would just happen naturally. And then into that, he did web design because that was like a natural progression. And then he did like typography. And the crazy thing in that overlap periods, sometimes like with the typography, I think he said it took 2 years before like he got any traction. Like he would post things online for 2 years. And I think he talks about this idea of basically like you have to put in the work, and then like it's not going to like happen overnight. Like there is that behind the scenes that happens, and you get that change. So for me personally, what happened was I had a friend. So like I realized that something had to change, and so I reached out to a buddy, Corey Hyman from Likeable Art. He's an awesome creative guy, and so basically like he was like, what is it like in Dante's, the person that guides you through, I forget his name, but he was that to me. I was Dante, and he was like guiding me through the different layers of hell and whatnot. But anyways, so he was the one that suggested this book, and I think that was very influential at the time because I wasn't sure like how to make a transition from that. And so I think it's important to find a guide. I don't know if you found that as well, like where it's like if you find that right person that can like kind of walk you through where they've been.
Yeah, and that person is going to be different, also depending on where you are in life. Again, I was in a great position to just make the leap. I probably shouldn't have, but I was listening to Gary Vee. He's very brash and just go for it, chase your dreams, whatever. So I was very hyped up about that. So that mine wasn't necessarily a mentor that I could talk to, but it was definitely a lot of books and influences in that aspect that said, this is something I can do, and I should probably do it now while I have the time, while my priority list is pretty short. So yeah, that was it for me.
And was that like a good experience for you? Like, because you basically took the leap into a passion like job, right? Is that what you're saying? Like basically you went from a full-time job into this passion project. Did that work out well, you'd say, like how you ended up doing it? Or were there things that you would like, I guess, suggest tweaking for anyone else?
I think I'm very blessed with the path. I was in a position that was what I wanted to do, but I was doing it for a company. It was just creating media, video, photos, stuff like that, digital marketing. But what I found was a lot of people in my area here in Roanoke needed that help for their business. So it was kind of like a true entrepreneur just looking at the market and see what was needed. And I saw this huge hole. And so I said, I guess there was some overlap. Before I even quit, I started to like talk to people about maybe building websites for them or maybe shooting a video here or there. So I saw a need for it, and so it didn't seem like that much of a leap because it wasn't like a career change. It was just furthering what I was already doing. But I think the hardest part was going from working for somebody to working for myself and having to be sales, marketing, finance, like doing the whole business thing, learning about how to set up a company. So there's definitely a lot of things you can do before you make the jump. And I just kind of went for it. So I think there was a little bit of overlap, but I also felt kind of guilty, like working on other things, with my job. But even now I do it, but I do it in a respectful manner. Like I don't work on other things while I'm on the job here. So, yeah, I don't know that I would really change anything. It's led me to where I am now. I love what I'm doing, and I'm working for a company. So it can look different for everyone. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like, and it's funny because like Sean talks about this idea that like, you don't have to figure out life right now.
Sure.
Like basically what you're doing right now is like if you like zoom out, from the trees and get the overview of the forest, like you could see this like red dot, and that's your life right now. And you have no idea what's up ahead, but maybe like, with that zoomed out view, you can see like you're on step number 5. Mm. And step number 1 right now, like, and you need to make that step to step number 2. And you don't know if it's exactly perfect, but like, that you want to make that change. And like, maybe it's a passion that you've had. And like, it's one of those things that you like lose track of time. Like you just like, it's a flow state for you. And like, you're really good at that. Then that might be an indicator that like, if you want to make that change, like when are you going to make that change? Like, because it's your life. And like, basically what he says is like, each of those steps along the way, even if they're like messy or, they're imperfect, like they're all going to end up being helpful in the long run. So he ends up like Sean ends up like making courses. Like he ends up, creating these digital products, and all of the things that he learned along the way helped him to do that.
That's right.
So I think it's like, don't think of it as like, if you make this step, it's like for the rest of your life.
Sure.
I know like in maybe like a couple decades earlier, like what you chose as a profession is what you did for the rest of your life. But I don't think that's true anymore. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. And I think something that helped me start my own company too was saying, in a year, if the company fails, I still have skills that I've built up this year that can translate to someone hiring me. I'm working on my resume. I'm working on my portfolio. So if I don't get anything out of this, if I lose money on it, I'm in a position where someone could hire me for my skills that I've built now. So I think that's something I thought about a lot too in starting my own company was, if I had taken a leap into like, I don't know, I think starting anything on your own helps you build business skills. If you're doing something to make money from it, you're learning how to sell yourself. You're learning how to market yourself. You're learning how to work with finances and just time management. There's a lot of skills you learn. I was about to say, like, if you decide tomorrow that you want to go into building Legos and making a YouTube channel about that, then in a year, if it doesn't work out, no one's going to hire you because of your Lego skills. But you've also been working on how to market yourself correctly, how to work with maybe sponsors on getting these deals, maybe even working with Lego, the company, to, send you stuff. So there are skills that you can't overlook, and you have to sort of concentrate on that. And it's not a super plan B, but it is some amount of net that can catch you and help you. And, you might have to go into like an entry-level position, or something, which would kind of suck, especially if you were making a lot more money beforehand. But I'm talking mostly on if what you're doing is failing, and we want to talk about how to set yourself up for not failing. So I say we go into kind of these steps here. Yeah, the how here, because I think this stuff is really, really good. So
yeah, I think you set it up really well to kind of like talk about now, how do you do it?
Sure.
We've talked about like the importance of it, but why and how should you get it done?
And really quick too, I want to preface this. You don't have to have 5 hours set up. Like if you get home from work at 5, you don't have to work till 10. You can spend 30 minutes, 15 minutes. It's just a matter of sitting down, focusing, and getting started. So like some of these steps you'll find like I'll just read the first one if that's okay. Like write down a list of all the goals you want to accomplish. That could be what you do today. And then you can revisit it tomorrow. You don't have to do all of this in one night. If you're like me, you're going to find a ton of energy because you're psyched, and you'll probably do a lot of these in one night, and you'll go to sleep at 2 a.m. and be dead tired the next day at work. But you don't have to like have all the time in the world to do this stuff. You can do it in little bits and pieces. So go for it, Paul. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, I think that's like a great first step, is just like writing out what are your goals that you have in your life. And like, if you don't think you have time, like it's going to be a super long list, you'd actually be surprised that it might not be as long as you think. And, I think it gives you clarity by writing that list down. So make a list of all the things, and then choose like the one thing that's going to make like the biggest difference in the next year. And then like get a piece of paper or maybe a Google Doc and write out the top, like the deadline for a year from today. Cool. So like you are going to make action on this thing starting, tomorrow, today, so that it's not just like this dream that you have in mind, like you're actually going to do something about it. And I think that gives you so much like energy, and like it's a big difference. Like this was what I did, and like it made a big difference. So like once you establish that, then write out like 20 things and like make it 20 things, like, exhaust this list of 20 things that you can do each day for the next 20 days that will bring you closer to that. And like those little baby steps really do matter. I don't know if you found that in your work, Spencer, like where like, you make a goal and like you have to like break it up to make it like doable.
Yeah, it just makes sense. I do it here in the company I work for. We work in a 90-day window. From the book Traction is where we learned that. And I think Javier, too, over at Finisher's Secrets, who, creates the Finisher Journal, he's very into setting your goal, which is something you wish to strive for, but then also creating these action steps. It's great to say in a year I want to be making $1 million, but if you have no way to get there, plan not written out, then it's really hard to do. So yeah, I love this. It's basically, here's the goal, but then here are your action steps to get there, things you can do, bits and pieces each day. And I will say too, the thing with goals is it's great to crush your goals, but it's also okay to not reach your goals. But what you have to realize is you're further along than you would have been. So even if you're halfway to your goal, you did way more than you would have just dreaming about your goals. So
yeah, cool. Absolutely. So I think also like he talks about this idea of like this passion versus day job. So like it's important that like if you're in a field where like basically at the end of the day you feel burnt out and you don't have any energy to like start working, then that might be a good indicator that you need like even a temporary new day job.
Sure.
Like, and I'll preface this by saying, if you are married, make sure your spouse is on board. Like, so make sure you communicate these ideas and make sure that you start hearing it from them, because like basically you have the responsibility of communicating well. So like if all of a sudden tomorrow I just decide like I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to go sell, popcorn at the corner. Like, I think it's a great idea. Like there's a huge industry for popcorn on corners. Like it's going to be the new lemonade stand. So like if I did that tomorrow, my wife would probably kill me. Like that would be like the worst thing ever. So just make sure that before you start your popcorn stand that you get buy-in from whoever it is.
Right.
Yeah, that's super important.
And I would say too, it's usually good. I mean, you see it in business. If you go up to your boss and say, I want to do this, they're going to be like, oh, no. But if you go with maybe a plan written out, or in 90 days, if this isn't working, I'll find a job in the same industry, like just allowing them to understand, like, again, the action steps that you're going to try and take and work hard towards to make that work or that move work. So that might help some of you. I don't know.
Yeah.
In your argument.
I love that idea, because I actually did something like that. Because during the pandemic, there was such a need for digital like creation. And so I ended up like, because of that, being able to work on projects that helped me get closer to a career shift.
Cool.
Going from music to digital creation. And so like, find those opportunities within your current situation if you can. Like if it's a healthy environment, if you're feeling great in the job that you are in right now, might as well see if there's actually even an opportunity to switch like within your company. Like if you love it, I think that's a great idea, because there are so many times that like people find out that you're passionate about something, or maybe you have a skill in something, and they're like, oh wow, like I had no idea.
And
like,
not to cut like your ultimate dream short, but you might find like just that switch alone is what you needed. Like, oh, well, I didn't know they needed this, and I love doing it, and I'm literally fulfilled now. So maybe in someday, or maybe I can still be working on my own company or ID or YouTube channel, but you might just find just talking to your superiors and saying like, this is what I love. Is there any possible way you would need this? Sometimes
like,
they'll be
even
like,
on the side, like,
yeah,
like a small project, like, and you can invent that project for them. Say like, this is where I could see the benefit of us doing something like this, and so let's do this small project. And I think that's a great way to start without like burning any bridges or creating stress on yourself. Because it's within your day job already, so like you're gonna have to be there anyways. So might as well make it something that's helping you, and potentially, getting closer to your goals.
Yeah, I'd say definitely first step. See if you're able to sort of make this shift in your current position before you start thinking maybe I should leave this job to find one that is more of what I'm looking for. I think that's a great point for sure.
Yeah. And then next, I love this idea of like laser focus. Sean talks about how like if you're on a beach and you've got like 6 fires and you're trying to tend each one of them, they're all going to die. Whereas like if you go like and focus, if you go and focus on like one fire and like make it into this huge bonfire, like it's going to, you know, be able to survive on its own. Whereas like if you're trying to like kindle like a fire in each 6 places, you're going to be like running around with your head, you know, going crazy. And Casey Neistat has this like great illustration. He always has a great way of telling stories, but he shows like this, I think it's in the book Essentialism, where they have this image of a circle. And like, if you try to go in many different directions, you have all these different arrows going out from the circle. However, if you go in one direction, you have this rocket like focus, this laser focus, like you have this long line and you go a lot further in life. And so I think that idea is really important to keep in mind when you're doing things, is like setting that one goal and just going towards it.
Couldn't have said it better, man.
So yeah, along with like laser focus, I like this idea of like putting in reps. So if you want to get better, if you want to get fit, it's so important to like work out. And, you know, I just started CrossFit. My legs are killing me. Like it is so painful to walk up and down the stairs. I can't tell you how like painful it is. But I feel so good because of it. Cool. So I think it's similar with that. Like if you want to start like another field, you're going to have to put in the reps, and you're going to have to feel that pain, that burn when you first get started. But like, it's like riding a bike, you get better as you go. Yeah.
I agree. And I think, you know, focusing on the measurables that we can control. So I think, you know, if your goal for the year is to get 50,000 followers, that's not, you can't control who follows you. So instead, maybe you're wanting to get 50,000 followers on your Instagram for the photos you're taking. What you can control is every day taking 10 photos that you think are amazing. You know, just putting the steps in there, the reps in for the things you can control. And I agree. You know, just putting in the reps. And, you know, we follow a lot of YouTubers, content creators who made tons and tons and tons of videos before they ever really got any traction with an audience. So I don't know. I think just bettering your craft and being consistent will bring the followers. It might take a while, but it's just inevitable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think like absolutely. I think 3 good case studies is one, Mr. Beast. Like he started out doing just like random, I think video game videos, and then like he just hit upon this like gold mine of like, I think he handed out like some amount of money to this homeless person, and that's what like triggered like his rocket. But like to think that he just like was an overnight success, I don't think is true, because like he was creating all these like videos. Yep. That man like pours his heart and soul into it. Another person is the author, Sean West. Like he did hand lettering for like 2 years before it took off. So like, don't expect results overnight. Another person is James Clear. Like he had an email list that he started out, and it, you know, built as he sent out emails. So don't get discouraged if you don't see that results, and like celebrate the small wins. Like each step along the way is helpful.
For sure. The next point is kind of, we already hit on this. See what you can start working on within your current business. You know, you might find that your company could use some of the new skills that you're working on. And you might find that your boss or the owner or whoever hasn't even thought about it. So maybe just bringing it to them, saying, here's what I think could work. Here's a little plan that I've written up. Is this something that you think could work? And you might find that they'll say, not really, but, you know, in your free time during the day, if you'd like to work on it, like that'd be okay, to see if it works. So,
yeah, love that. Next up, we have basically this idea of you have to sometimes start free, like where you give your services away. I guess like growing up, I had this computer business where I would fix other people's computers, and oftentimes I'd say like, oh, like don't worry about it, or like, you know, whatever you want, like, and that actually worked out really well in my favor, where they would just like hand me like there was this one client which was like the sweetest person ever, but like they said like, I'll take care of the money, you take care of the computer. And like, I think, sometimes when you have generosity, like what you get in return, like what you give, you get back far more in return. And so like, sometimes like Sean recommends like basically making an invoice of like, so you get the practical like understanding of what you're giving to somebody, and like treat it like a real job. So like if you decide to do work for somebody, like, write up an invoice, like maybe you're worth, like what you're working on is like $1,000. So you write that up and then you give them 100% discount. So like they can see what you're doing is worth a lot and you can understand the value of what you do. Don't undervalue yourself. I think that's one thing that he talks about a lot is like, don't take on clients that are not aligned with your values because you end up getting burned because of that.
Yeah. And I'll say from experience too, owning, I guess, three companies now, with two of them being service oriented. I think early on, there's a little bit of leeway there. Like you need the money, you need the experience. So kind of what we're saying, be willing to do things for free. And I think you really can do things for free. Something that really works is if you go, say you take photographs and that's what you want your business to be. Go to a company and say, hey, could I take 10 photos of your best, if you're at a restaurant, your best dishes, and I'll just give them to you. You might find that they're like, wow, those are great. How can we hire you on full time to do this? Or not full time, but like, how can we work together monthly for you to put out our new specials and bands that we have coming to play and things about the chef and what he's working on? So there's a lot of opportunity where you can spend a minimal amount of effort and time giving something away for free that could return. And even if they can't hire you on, they might be like, this guy's awesome and he came to our business and did it for free. He's worth a lot more than free, friend of mine who also owns a business, you should hire him kind of thing. So there's room for that, and don't be scared early on to work with people maybe you don't enjoy as much because again, you're learning skills, you're learning how to work with people. Even if you don't like it, there's a paycheck associated with it. And then once you get up and running, once you have the wiggle room to say, I really don't like that client, you can let them go and it's fine. No harm, no foul. And pick and choose the type of clients that really resonate with you, and you'll find that, at least from my experience, you'll have these first initial meetings and you can really gauge how it's going to be working with them, and you can decide then like, hey, I love you, I love your business, but I just don't think it's a good fit. And that's a really powerful feeling to be able to say that, with your own business. So that's something to look forward to. But I would say don't be afraid to work with anyone and everyone who will help you to gain that experience and maybe pay the bills a little bit. So
yeah, I guess that's the beauty of the overlap is that you're not the day job, like he talks about this, it should cover all of your expenses so that you are not relying on your passion.
I love that.
And then like what his idea is like once you want to make that pivot is that like you should be in a financially stable point where like you don't have to like make those poor decisions to take on like those, cheap clients that are going to like end up hurting you, burning you. Another thing to keep in mind is like when you do a free project, use it as a case study. My buddy Corey from Likeable Art is a huge fan of case studies. And like if you can show like I did X for this company and this yielded like a 10-fold return, or like, they have 10 times more engagement, like you name it, whatever that measurable is, like document it and share that with others. I think that's of huge value.
Yeah. Case studies are amazing. Testimonials, they just add to your credibility. I guess I had the pain point of taking on any and every client at first because I did make the jump, but I keep forgetting that we're in this world right now of like you still have a day job. So that is a cool position. You can really say no to people and it's fine because any money you're making is just icing on the cake at this point. So that's really cool. I like that.
And I guess leading into that one idea was from my kind of my mentor, the person I interned with that made all the difference. Find somebody that's further along than you, whether it's a person that you can contact or maybe it's someone like Spencer was doing, like Gary Vee. Like I don't think Spencer had like Gary Vee's number and could call him up and say, hey, like, what do you think about this idea? Like, should I do it? And, but like, even that, like having someone that like you respect and like you think has great ideas, like to kind of follow in their footsteps, reverse engineer what they did, I think really helps you have a path forward. Like if someone's done it before, it's doable. Like,
Yep.
keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Even if it's, someone who's not super, super successful yet, but if someone's taken the leap, or if someone is running a side hustle with their business, they have experience you don't have. So, and it's also not a bad thing to talk to a bunch of different people. Don't let it like stop you in your tracks with your decision making. But anyone who's a step ahead of you has more experience than you do. So they're valuable, and what they have can be valuable. So a mentor doesn't have to be like an owner of a $6 million business who, it could be, but mentor could be really anyone, even peers who are just a step further. So I love it.
Absolutely. And next up, we're talking about the importance of journaling. I don't know if Spencer, if you've had the experience of the importance of journaling. I feel like I need to do it more. I'll be completely honest. But during my transition, I did this based on the suggestion by Sean. He recommended like waking up at 6 a.m. Like, make a commitment that you're going to wake up every single day for the next 30 days at 6 a.m. and make the next 90 minutes like intensely focused on just being productive. So like, if you're an artist, maybe you work on your art, or maybe if you want to write more, you work on writing, like, again, putting in the reps, but like being very intentional. Like, just say to yourself, like, I'm not a quitter. Like, I'm going to commit for the next 30 days, rain or shine. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to like start working at it. And, just start messy. Like, maybe you can think of like little prompts that you can write on, and you'd be surprised. Like, once you sit down and get into like the state of writing or whatever it is, like you kind of get into this flow state.
Yeah.
And like, I think just setting aside that time alone and just dedicating, like, you're going to get there, do it. I think it's really helpful.
Quick thought on that. I'm sure some of you, maybe a lot of you, are like, wow, easier said than done. When I wake up at 5, my kid's already awake, and I've got to, watch them while mom's getting ready for the day, or whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be 6 a.m. I mean, for some of you, you might get to work at 6 a.m. So,
Right.
But trying to commit to something, maybe daily, whether that's 5 minutes, whether that's 10 minutes, it's hard to get focused on something in that short amount of time. But if you could work in an hour to 90 minutes consistently every day to just work on the craft, I mean, add that up, in 30 days, if you're working 90 minutes, can't do the math in my head, but that's a lot of minutes that you've spent working on this dream of yours. So it adds up.
Right. Yeah. And he talks about the 3 P's of accountability. You have your partner. So like, make sure you have your spouse on board with whatever you're doing. Like, if it's going to cut into the schedule, like, communicate that, make sure they understand, like, you're going to take this time, make sure they're on board with that. And then 2, public, maybe you can post it to social media. I'm like 50-50 on that one. Like, I get it. Like, people like to post it, but maybe you don't want to. That's fine. However you want to do it. And then personal, like, and this is like an interesting one, personal, because like oftentimes people think like, it's just me, like, why do I have to hold myself to such standards? But like, that's actually one of the best places to start, is like, because it's so easy for us to be like, I'll do it tomorrow or something. But like, hold yourself responsible. Like, people respect when you can say no to something and say, like, commit to something. That shows that you're like, you're the, like, taking ownership of your life. And that's like one other side point that I'll make real quick is be comfortable saying no to something. Like, if that means that you can work, on your goal that you have, like, say no to watching a movie, say no to playing video games, like those lesser things that are going to keep you away. Like, you're the one that's going to keep you from succeeding.
100%. 100%. I love it. I need to read this book. So hopefully you guys will too. What our takeaways here, our first one is to read Overlap by, so his name is Sean Wes, or that's what he goes by.
I'm going to have to clarify that with him.
Yeah.
So like, I think his name is Sean McCabe. However, I think his business is like Sean Wes. Like, so I think he is at like SeanWest.com.
Okay. So maybe a middle name or something.
Maybe I should ask him. And we're hoping to have him on the podcast. So
that'd be cool.
I think he said possibly in the next year. So it'd be awesome to have Sean on here to kind of explain it more in depth.
For sure.
It would be fun.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed this episode. We have that to look forward to, potentially. If not, just re-listen to this episode a few times. Hopefully we've provided some value, with our experience. And, this book, just even these points that Paul wrote down, I'm going to go read it for sure. Listen to it. Isn't it also like you can read it online for free or something?
Yeah, So I think he has it on his website. I think it's like seanwest.com. Maybe we can leave a link in the show notes. But I think if you go to his page, like he has it so you can read it like on your browser. So like you can do it there. Or obviously he has got an audiobook. I did that.
That's probably what I'll do.
And then also like he has like the printed out format, so you can buy those ones, or you can go on his website, and I think he has like the digital version on like a web page that you can read right from the website, which is awesome. So if you want to just like get a taste of it, yeah,
for sure,
that'd be good way to do it. Yeah.
Last takeaway, Paul, what do we got?
Yeah, so I guess going back to what we already said is like make that list of goals. Like so, write those down, and then pick the one that's going to make the biggest impact. Again, make a piece of paper, Google Doc, where you're going to just basically list out 20 items that you can work on in the next 20 days, and just start doing it.
Yeah, I'll add 2 more bits of information that might help with that. Don't get stuck trying to pick the most important. Whatever sticks out to you, even if halfway through you're like, this probably wasn't the most important, stick to it. Again, you're moving in the right direction, which is what matters here. Second thing, maybe like print it out and put it in front of you, whether it's at work. Maybe you could write it cryptically so no one knows you're working on it, maybe. Or, at home on the refrigerator, just make sure that it's in front of you. Like writing it digitally is great, but if you tuck it away and you're like, you just kind of lose sight of it. So maybe put it somewhere prominent where you can see it every day and know what you're working towards would be super helpful as well. But yeah, wow, that was a great episode. Man, I learned a lot.
Yeah. Man, this has been great, and I'm super excited to keep on this journey with you. And thank you, listeners, if you've made it this far. We're super excited to have you with us on this journey. So keep following along. If you wouldn't mind, follow, rate, review, and if you leave a review, I'm sure Spencer and I would be happy to read that review, because I don't know, every little thing we love to hear from you, because it's great for us to talk, but and maybe at some point we could have one of you on the show.
Love it.
Down the road.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. And so, yeah, until next time, stay messy.